Hello, I'm Andrew Susskind, and I'm a therapist and author based on the west side of Los Angeles since 1992, specializing in trauma and addictions. Welcome to my podcast, named after my recent book, It's Not About the Sex. Here we have honest conversations related to compulsive sexual behavior and trauma, all from a sexual health perspective. Our intention is to offer fresh viewpoints and practical strategies toward establishing greater intimacy and a more deeply connected life. Let's begin. Welcome, Sue.
Hey, good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. I am really excited about this episode.
Me too.
You know, it was something that just coincided with our 75th episode, but I think it's perfect because you have really been instrumental in actually getting this podcast off the ground. It never would have happened without you. And you've been a voice and a contributor to our episodes from the very beginning. And I would really love our audience to get to know you better.
Well, it's been really fun, Andrew. And just thinking, I never really thought about 75 episodes in, and I got to credit you. I mean, you're always very well prepared and have some fantastic guests over the past, has it been 2 years?
At least.
Yeah, at least. Oh my gosh. So it's been really fun working on this project with you. I'm happy to pull back the curtain, so to speak.
From behind the scenes to the forefront.
All right.
So one thing I just wanted to say, other than how grateful I am for you in this podcast and in my life, is that this is really a milestone for us because I think we have a really wonderful collaboration here. And as our listeners know, we've been trying to get the word out about compulsive sexual behavior and other addictive behaviors, and of course, trauma, and all from a sex positive viewpoint. And it's really evolved. And I really could not have done it without you, for sure. And so I just want to say all of that to begin and to welcome you to today's podcast together as I interview you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, like I said, it's been definitely a lot of interesting topics and just knowledge coming forth that I didn't even know anything about, so it's just fantastic to be part of that and learning as our listeners are with all the things you present.
Yeah, we're all learning together.
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't we share a little bit about our background? Why don't you begin by sharing with our listeners how we met?
Oh, sure. So back in 1985.
Cough, cough.
I was trying to remember exactly, was it 85 or 86? Because I went out to UMass and I was part of the UMass marching band, but you weren't that year in 85. You were just living among the marching band people.
It's all a blur,
right? Yeah,
but it was somewhere in the mid '80s for
right,
sure.
Yeah,
and UMass, for those people who may not know, is the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and the power and class of New England
that's
was
right
the
here.
Minuteman marching band. So that's actually the origins of where we met.
Yeah. And we both had the experience of working under George Parks, who was since passed, but just an amazing character and energizer and motivator, and it was wonderful to be part of his dynasty, I guess.
For sure. And he left a huge legacy as well. So it's I almost feel like it's important to have a moment to acknowledge and just take that in, because he truly was he was synonymous with the UMass marching band for many, many years.
Yeah, many, many years. So what brought Andrew and I together is probably a group of people who were like-minded people. And looking back at my years at UMass, I was only there for 2 years total. And you came in from Rutgers, I believe, right? So
That's right. I transferred.
Like coming and going, the both of us, but we became pretty close friends pretty quickly, and just same frequency, same support of each other. And yes, it wild times back then, trying to figure out who we are. And I came
We're still
from,
figuring that out,
I
aren't we?
know, but it was a big time of like Leo Buscaglia. I know we talked about him before for me, but
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
hugging doctor, I never was hugged as a child. That was never
Mm,
part of my, growing up, and just going into a group of people where that was just what we did. We hugged, we
yeah,
cared for
yeah.
each other, and it became instant family.
It was. It was definitely family of choice, and I think the stars aligned and brought us together.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're still in touch with many people in that original group, so it's very special.
Yeah. And I know they're all listening. Hello.
I know every one of them is listening at this moment. So hi, we'll send all of our regards to Massachusetts, Vermont, New
Yeah,
Hampshire,
exactly.
New England. Anyway, why don't we shift gears and talk specifically about um, podcast producing? Because your role here has been to produce the podcast, but
Mm,
also has been to be a collaborator on many episodes as we explore various issues. But
mhm.
tell me why and how you got involved with audio production.
Oh, sure. So, it goes back to I was working, or I was on the board of directors at the Chamber of Commerce in Concord, Massachusetts, and we started this little magazine program for the chamber members. And in doing so, I was thrown to be behind the camera and behind the audio scenes, and wanted to learn more about that. I didn't want to just be like a hack, trying to piece it all together. So I decided to go back to school, which I kind of do a lot, which you'll hear. But I went to Emerson College, and
In
which is,
Boston.
yeah, very prominently known for production and actors, and all of that whole industry. And so I picked up a certification there in digital media production, where I was able to learn all these things and apply this new knowledge to that TV show that I was producing. And then that kind of morphed into me working and running the entire TV station
Wow.
in Concord, Mass. And in learning and running the whole station, you wear many, many hats. So learning and understanding audio and
Mm,
video and how that all works. So I just started when I moved out here, kind of offering that as an option for people, instead of just doing the video part of it, but also the audio part of it. And
mhm,
it connects back to my passion of telling stories. For me, I
mm,
feel like everyone has a story. And to hear everyone's story, I love old timey radio.
mm,
And also tying it back to my dad, who was into the audio piece of broadcasting as well. He had a passion for it as well. And as a child, we had the reel to reel tape, those huge big reel tapes, and my dad was always cutting things together. I don't know why. I need to talk to him about that, but that was always part of my life. We always had tape recorders, and I
wow.
spent an entire summer recording jingles with my neighbor when we were like 8 or 9 years old, which I would love to have that tape.
Mm,
So audio's already always been there, and my passion for hearing people's stories and understanding where that everyone had a story and everyone came from somewhere, and I just wanted to be able to help people tell their stories,
mhm,
um, which isn't really exactly what I'm doing, so to speak. That's not the prominent theme of any of my podcasts that I do, but it is. I do produce like 4 other podcasts and helping people get their
but this
message
one's
out.
your favorite, though.
This is my favorite. So I do have some really cool equipment that works for remote recording and also in studio recording.
Mm.
So just my passion for that, and I don't know, I like tinkering with things too, I guess.
Well, it's not too late to put together some jingles now. So maybe we have another podcast on that.
Just
No,
jingles
but
from the 70s.
that's
Yeah.
right. Exactly. I mean, that was the highest point of jingles. So one thing I know about you, Sue, is ever since I've known you, you've taken lots of classes and you've gone through a lot of different types of certifications
Mhm.
and learning. I mean, you're a learner. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about, and you might have to streamline this a little bit because there's so many. But what were the most instrumental aspects of your training, your schooling through the years?
Most instrumental. Well, I think Emerson College kind of gave me the foundational. It's the one school where it was kind of mechanical and technical, which feeds some part of my brain that really needs to keep getting that feedback for. When I went to some business, I took some business classes to help with my bike tour business that I started.
Uh-huh.
That
We'll come
again,
back to that.
yeah, that was a little more technical too because there's
Sure.
numbers and stuff like that. But I think the part the life coaching classes and the hypnotherapy classes and the now at UCLA the addiction counseling classes really speaks to me understanding kind of human nature and how the brain works. I enjoy understanding like almost validating like why people say and do things, and how they do go back to trauma or go back to childhood experiences and how we all have our own introspection of what we are living and what we are experiencing. Understanding that helps people get on a better path for themselves,
Mhm.
and that's important to help people realize and be more aware.
Yeah, I think you know this about me, Sue, but I do believe that part of our therapeutic healing in life is about developing a cohesive story, cohesive narrative about who we are.
Mm,
And I love what you said about storytelling because it doesn't matter whether it comes through audio production or through hypnotherapy or through addiction counseling or through life coaching. It's all the same idea. And I think that's such a great focal point that you're highlighting in terms of what you're most passionate about and approaching it from different angles.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to look at it like that. But yeah, that's true. Um, I know we'll might get to this, but I feel like when I went to India, it really opened up my eyes to people in other parts of the world so far remote from where I was physically and mentally, still had the same exact struggles. No matter, they were living in tents down by the beach, but what they wanted were the same exact things that I wanted. And I'm living in this, Concord, Massachusetts, in a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. And we wanted to care for our children. We wanted education. We wanted health. We wanted, it was like survival, but in different ways. It was all coming through that it all to me came down to love. And it was just that trip. There's still so much, even though it was like 8 years ago, I still pull from it every day.
Sure. My understanding is that it was a turning point for you.
Mm,
Speaking of turning points, you made a decision to enroll at the UCLA CADAC program. And for
mhm.
people who don't know, CADAC is the California um, Addiction and Drug Counseling Certification, which is really the gold standard here in California. And UCLA has one of the best programs. And I was wondering if you could share about what attracted you to that particular program.
Sure. Well, like you said, I mean, UCLA, that program is very well known, and you can certainly go other places and get a KDAC, but the quality of the instructors and the connections they have, and just the people that have gone through the program and the success rate of it just spoke to me. And I'm here, like why not take advantage of the best one that's around?
Sure.
And it's been a fantastic program, and just the cohort group, we're so tight and it's just fantastic.
Hmm.
But when I first moved out here from Boston to California, Andrew, you were helpful in helping me locate a job and started working in the addiction counseling program with Dr. Tracy Zemansky, who works with specifically doctors going through recovery and has a monitoring program. So I kind of came on board as an admin, but worked my way up as a case manager and just really understanding what addiction was. I had no idea. I mean, we all experience it at some point in our lives or know people or have, tendencies in that direction. I think we all kind of have addiction to certain things. But
Mm-hmm.
how that all worked in the brain was very interesting to me. And then just trying to and noticing, like, we have 5-year contracts with people that come into her program, and having seen 5 years of people come through from day one to kind of graduate through the program,
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing to see really how much they have grown and what they've
Mm-hmm.
learned and
Mm-hmm.
what they turned over. And being a part of that was just amazing to me. And I just wanted to kind of sink my teeth more into that and be able to help people more and that growth and growing myself through the program is also happening. So it's just it's a lot. I mean, addiction work in addiction is a lot and can be heavy and burdensome, but there's also lots of light at the end of the tunnel, and to see that and
Mm-hmm.
be a part of that is this most incredible, amazing feeling. And I
Mm-hmm.
know understand that, but just helping people get through that is, I feel like, a gift, to be able to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I when you talk about it that way, and I sometimes take it for granted, honestly. It's like a mutual healing, right?
Mhm,
I get to be with others who are trying to find some kind of direction in their lives, some kind of hope, some kind of purpose, and at the same time, our hearts are working together. And so I so appreciate what you're describing, and also what you're doing to expand on what you're already doing.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a mutual feeling. And of course, it's like with any relationship, well, with a therapist or a counselor, there are boundaries in place, but your feelings and to be compassionate, to be a human, and being able to be empathetic and compassionate is sometimes just exactly what that person needs at that moment. And really we're just kind of planting seeds, and it's up
Hmm.
to them
Yeah.
to choose what to do with it. But I'm always here to support and understand and listen.
Sure. And I just want to also mention that actually two of our previous guests, Tracy Zamansky, Dr. Zamansky, as well as Patty Britton, Dr.
Mhm.
Patty Britton, are two of the folks that you've been collaborating with and working with for quite a while.
Yeah.
And they both have an amazing kind of approach to healing. And of
Mhm.
course, Patty focuses on sex and sexuality, and sex positive approaches to living life with freedom and liberation and fun and pleasure. A little different energy than the other program, but I just wanted to put a plug in because you've been so helpful to both of them through the years.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working with Patty. We have a project we're working on currently, so it's been a lot of that and feeling her energy. And it's, yeah, she's got a lot of really positive energy coming forward. So that's always a fun place and space to be working.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about this in particular, but you did mention the Concord Bike Tour, which I was lucky enough to actually go on the tour with you at one point. So, any anything you would like to share about that?
Well, again, that was just something. I look back at it and I just kind of chuckle that I saw an opportunity, and I think a lot of my life is about looking for opportunities
Hmm.
and never really saying no to them. But I'm getting better at that. Um, but yeah, just going on family vacations with my 2 boys, we would always go to, a national park, a baseball game, and an amusement park. That was kind of our trifecta for vacations, and we were in Gettysburg, and I kinda am a little bit of a history buff. I don't know all the dates and names, but I do enjoy learning it. And when I went to Gettysburg, we had a really bad tour guide down there, but we had an amazing time because we were on bikes, and the people that we were with were from all over the world, and it was just a really fun vacation, and the boys
Hmm.
really liked it, and everyone really liked it. And so when we came back home to Concord, Mass, I was like, "Why are we not doing this here?" And there was nobody doing bike tours. So I decided that this needed to be done. And it took probably about 6 months to get it up and running. I bought 10 bikes with my tax return money and got all the permits and everything that you need to get when you work with the government, which wasn't easy, but I did it and started this bike tour company. And it just
Mhm.
grew. Like by the time you were on it, it was probably 2 or 3 years in, and
Mhm.
it became Best of Boston, and it was just an amazing, fun experience. But the key for me wasn't just taking people around on bikes. The key for me was the groups of people that I brought together and hearing them exchange stories and where they're from. And I felt like the catalyst. I felt like
Mm.
I was bringing together this group of people that would never, of strangers, never would have
Mhm.
met. And some of them are still friends today, and I'm still friends
Mm.
with them and will
Mm.
meet and talk to them.
So storytelling,
Again, back to the storytelling and connecting people together.
connecting.
Yeah, it was huge. And
Yeah.
I looked forward to, who am I gonna meet today? And, it was just really it was really fun. And yeah, I missed doing it, but it
Mm.
ended up being a safety issue, and, other life things happened where I ended up selling the company. But looking back, it was definitely about connection. And here we
Mhm.
are talking about addiction and connection and how important that is for all people to make
Mm.
those connections.
Mhm. And I just have to say that having been on the tour, you knew every date and every detail and had your spiel down so perfectly that I was looking at you like, is this Sue? Is this my friend Sue? And it was just really fantastic. And I look back on that with a very warm heart.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm turning it into a podcast soon, so stay tuned.
Exactly. So circling back to the KDAC certification, what next? What do you see in your future? What's the crystal ball say?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I wish I had one. Um, well, also at UCLA, they offer this mindfulness awareness research center program, which I'm going
Hmm.
to hopefully get accepted into and start in, I believe, January.
Otherwise known as Mark,
Mark,
MARC.
that's right, Mark with a C, um, which have very well known meditation and mindfulness people, and just again, it's here, and why not take advantage of it? So what I'd like to do is pair the mindfulness and meditation work with groups, and work with people in addiction and drug recovery centers, and help guide them to, learn new coping mechanisms, and learn how to take that time with reaction, and what mindfulness does and can help reprogram your brain, and really, as another tool for them to be successful. So just kind of
Hmm.
pair the two together. My ultimate way down the line dream, which I don't know if I'll ever get there, but it's a dream,
Hmm.
is to own some sort of a meditation resource vehicle where I can go and
Hmm.
take it to wellness businesses, or like hospitals, or different clinics, or even to the food market or wherever, and have a space, kind of sanctuary space for people to be able to meditate and have some mindfulness reminders, and whether that's using like virtual reality goggles, or just having a space available for people who may not be aware of that, and help planting the seed so that people can continue and build their own practice.
Hmm. And not that you know anything about this, Sue, but I certainly could use some more mindfulness in my life.
Mhm.
I do have a small meditation practice in the morning, but I know that I would benefit from expanding on it. And so in some ways it's so much more than a tool. It's a way of life, it's a lifestyle, it's learning how to be still. And when we're talking about compulsive addictive behaviors and traumas of various kinds, it's so disruptive to the nervous system, as we know. And to infuse mindfulness into our everyday and into our lifestyle, um, I, I I just see it as a necessity,
Mhm.
really.
Mhm.
for not only regulating the nervous system, but breathing and grounding and being human, basically, without
Exactly.
having to be scheduled or running around or distracting or going on social media or whatever that is. It takes us away from the moment.
It's like bringing us back to what it is we are, because we
Exactly.
got caught up in so many other things that just we're bombarded with constantly, and just kind of erasing that and getting back to really simple things of, like you said, breathing. How many times are we walking around holding our breaths? It's just,
Mm,
and I noticed during COVID, just like wearing the masks and stuff like that,
yeah.
I was, like, holding my breath, like, so many times. I'm like, "Oh my god, just breathe." It's like when you get home and you take your shoes off and you're just like,
Hmm.
"Oh." It's
Right.
that same feeling of being able to allow yourself that release,
Hmm.
and it's really like a vacation when you can do that, and you can have that so many times throughout your day.
Exactly.
People really turn away from meditation because they think like, "Oh, I'm just gonna fall asleep." And I'm like, "Well, that's not really what it is." I mean, it's more like you said, mindfulness and awareness
Yeah,
that is important.
for
People are not
sure.
aware of where they are at any moment, and you can see that at the supermarket, driving around your neighborhood, um, even at restaurants and bars. It's like it's just everyone's somewhere else. It's
For
crazy.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So before I let you go, I want to invite you, if you're open to it, to talk about your role as a mom and having raised two great kids. Much of that on your own, actually, um, because I've seen these great boys from the time they were born, and now they're in their 20s, and so
Yeah.
I really invite you to share whatever you'd like to share about that aspect of who you are.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I think they kinda come out wired certainly different ways than, so I think I'm kinda lucky in that, what I got, but, at the time that I was a new mom, I was also back at college getting my BA in, early childhood education. So I was starting to learn about Erickson and, the stages of life and development, and I had 2 babies at the same time. So I was fortunate because I didn't have that knowledge of what it was to be a mom, really. I mean, nobody does other than your own personal experience. And my personal experience wasn't the greatest. I know they were doing the best they could, but learning about like attachment styles and all these things while you have two young children, it was fantastic. So I feel like I was kind of at the right time at the right moment to really help and guide and facilitate time and experiences for my children. I think it was just fortunate in my education and following my gut too. A lot of people forget to do that, even though we do have access to academics and
Mm,
understanding um and stuff like that. You still what feels right to you and understanding and knowing that. Andrew, I'm very lucky. I mean, these kids are just fantastic and
mhm,
they're just compassionate, empathetic, sensitive young men who
mhm.
will make a difference in this world. So,
Yeah, they're good people.
yeah.
So sometimes at the end of our podcast, I ask the question, what would be a couple of things you would like our listeners to remember? But I'm actually going to step in and share the theme that came up earlier, because I thought the theme of storytelling and connection was so beautiful and touching, because I don't always think about that, especially as a pair, but it's what we do all the time.
It's true. Yeah,
And I really appreciate you introducing those particular concepts, because they're not just concepts, but they're ways to um to heal from the inside out.
exactly. Yeah. Guys, look at your story that you're telling yourself. And
That's right.
yeah, I mean, I just really came into this pretty recent as far as understanding that when I wrote my family of origin story recently again, this is my story.
Mm-hmm.
and what is your story? And
Mm-hmm.
even though my mom could read my paper and be like, that's not really my story, that's
Mm-hmm.
not, she has a different take on it. So we all have our own takes on it. And being open to that and understanding that is learning and growth, and
Mm-hmm.
you know saying, oh, okay, this is your story, it's not
Right.
anybody else's.
Really. And to own our stories, to share our stories with folks we trust deeply, and to be seen and heard and understood and valued and respected. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what we're talking about, which is every human being's desire.
Yeah.
So, with that said, what a pleasure to have you here today, Sue.
Thank you, Andrew. It was a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed turning the table and seeing what it was like to have you as the interviewee, and I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, thank you. I did too. Have a
All
great day.
right. See you soon. Please give us a 5-star rating and be sure to subscribe and share my podcast with those who may benefit. I look forward to you joining us the next time.